The town of Innsmouth, isolated, forgotten, a place where time seemed to stand still, where the echoes of the past lingered in every corner. The town was shrouded in an almost perpetual mist, giving it an ethereal, otherworldly quality. A place where the mist clung to the rooftops like a shroud, wrapping the town in a blanket of eerie silence. The fog was so thick that it was hard to see more than a few feet ahead, creating an unsettling sense of isolation. The air was thick with the stench of the sea and something ancient, something foul. I arrived at dusk, just as the last rays of sunlight were swallowed by the encroaching darkness. The town seemed to come alive in the twilight, with shadows dancing and shifting in the mist. Shadows stretched long and distorted across the decaying buildings. The structures, once proud and sturdy, now stood as crumbling monuments to a forgotten era. The sense of decay was palpable, as if the town itself was slowly being consumed by the mist. The streets were deserted, save for a few lurking figures that darted into the shadows as I approached. These figures moved with an unnatural swiftness, disappearing before I could get a good look at them. It was as if the town was playing tricks on my mind, making me question what was real and what was not. I felt a chill run down my spine, not just from the cold, but from the overwhelming sense of dread that seemed to permeate the very air. Every step I took echoed loudly in the silence, amplifying my unease. This town was not right. There was an unnatural stillness, a sense that something was watching, waiting. The feeling of being an unwelcome intruder grew stronger with each passing moment. Something was deeply, terribly wrong. The mist seemed to whisper secrets, ancient and malevolent, as if the town itself was alive and aware of my presence. I knew I had to uncover the truth, no matter how horrifying it might be. The locals were unsettling. Their eyes, bulging and glassy, watched my every move. Their skin, pallid and slick, seemed stretched too tightly over their bones. They spoke in hushed, guttural tones, a strange dialect I couldn't quite place. Their words seemed to slither through the air, thick with unspoken warnings. I soon learned that outsiders were not welcome in Innsmouth. Every glance, every muttered word told me to leave. But my curiosity, like a hungry beast, demanded to be fed. I delved into the town's history, exploring every nook and cranny of its ancient streets and forgotten alleys. Piecing together fragments of a dark and terrifying past, I spent countless hours in the dusty archives, poring over ancient documents and historical books. Tales of a cursed island, Johantlei, and its inhuman inhabitants, the deep ones, began to emerge from the pages. The island, shrouded in mist and mystery, seemed almost alive with secrets. Legends spoke of a pact made between the town's founders and these creatures. This pact, whispered about in hushed tones, was said to have been forged in the very heart of the town. A pact sealed in blood, a trade for wealth and prosperity. The rituals performed by the sea under the cover of darkness were both fascinating and horrifying. The more I uncovered, the more the pieces fit. Each new discovery, each old manuscript and hidden map brought me closer to the truth. The strange appearance of the townsfolk, their reclusive nature, their whispered prayers to a pagan god, it all began to make a chilling kind of sense. It all pointed to a horrifying truth, a truth that had been buried for centuries, waiting to be uncovered. Section 4. The Deep Ones Rise. A terrifying transformation. One night I stumbled upon a hidden chamber beneath the town. It was a place I had only heard whispers about, a forbidden area that locals avoided at all costs. The entrance was concealed behind an old, crumbling wall, barely noticeable unless you knew where to look. The air was thick with the smell of brine and decay. It was as if the very essence of the sea had seeped into the walls, leaving a permanent mark of its presence. The atmosphere was heavy, almost suffocating, and every breath I took felt like inhaling the ocean itself. In the center, a pool of black water shimmered under an unseen light. The water was unnaturally still, its surface like a dark mirror, reflecting the dim light from above. It was mesmerizing and terrifying at the same time, drawing me closer with an inexplicable pull, and then I saw them. Strange bioluminescent creatures moving just beneath the surface. Their glow was faint but unmistakable, casting eerie patterns on the walls of the chamber. They moved with a grace that was both beautiful and horrifying, like dancers in a macabre ballet. Rising from the depths, their bodies sleek and scaled, their eyes burning with an ancient hunger. The Deep Ones. Panic seized me. These were not mere legends or figments of imagination. They were real, and they were here, right in front of me. Their presence was overwhelming, a living nightmare come to life. I had stumbled upon the town's terrible secret, and now I was marked for sacrifice. The realization hit me like a tidal wave, and I knew there was no escape. The Deep Ones had risen, and their hunger would not be sated until they had claimed their due. My fate was sealed, and the terror of that moment would haunt me forever. Section 5, Escape from Innsmouth, a desperate flight. I fled through the darkened streets, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind me. The townsfolk, their true forms revealed, were closing in. I could hear their inhuman shrieks, their slithering forms brushing against the buildings. I had to escape, had to outrun the darkness that was consuming Innsmouth. Finally, I reached the edge of town, my lungs burning, my heart pounding against my ribs. I didn't dare look back. Section 6, a haunting legacy, the shadow remains. I escaped Innsmouth, but the memory of that night has never left me. The chilling whispers, the grotesque forms, the horrifying truth of the Deep Ones. I carry the shadow of Innsmouth with me, a constant reminder of the ancient horrors that lurk beneath the surface of our world. The Deep Ones are real, and they are waiting.